Hi, friends. Nicole here. So, it is a cold and rainy Sunday, and I am sitting in my living room looking at all the things that I have accumulated and coming up with a plan for discarding them. Now, some of these things I have used for my creative process, including different types of papers, writing instruments like chalks, color pencils, pens, paints. When it comes to the body care company, some scents, some dried herbs and florals, and the spaces that they take up in my home. Winter is here, which means that most people are about to hunker down in the warmth and cozy of their home. And I tend to like the winter season. We have a fireplace, and I like cozying up near the fireplace. And since I started creating from home, I have occupied more space for my creations than I originally intended, which means I am pushing us out of our house, our living space, with my accumulation of things. That's part of the reason why I want my own artist studio, my own artist space, because it's like I need these things, but I truly love having a separation between my living space and my working space. And again, when I look at the energy that it takes for me to create versus the energy that I retreat in when I'm home, in my safe space, if you will, my sanctuary, if you will, they're two different energies. And so for quite a bit of time, I've had to work around the comfort of my home while trying to muster up the energy to create the things, store the things, house the things, ship the things. And it's been a wonderful learning process, right? Because part of the reason why I focused on small batch production was to understand the manufacturing process, so that I can see what would be required to scale smartly. And I feel like I've achieved that. There are lots of tools and plugins that can go into the process, and so much has changed since I first started taking the idea of the body care company from a hobby to something that could be self-sustained in a brick and mortar location where I could envision what it would be like to hire people, to what type of benefits I would offer them, could offer them as an employer, but also what type of livable wages could be offered. And I remember distinctly when I was taking some of the products out to different pop-up shops locally, when I was pitching certain media, when I was pitching people on the idea, just trying to get them to buy in, right? Because that's part of just listening to the feedback of the different stakeholders, was taking some of that feedback, incorporating it into the business and the products, and understanding the overall assembly of the product lines, right? Building on the knowledge and education that I already had. And by the time I started working with a business mentor, I'm doing all this while having a full-time job, while working in the height of the pandemic, And again, trying to make sense of the stress test of the supply chain that would be required to bring my products to market. And during that time, some of my suppliers and stuff, like they had to pivot to focus on the manufacturing of like hand sanitizers and things of that nature. So it was wonderful learning experience to be able to work with some of my suppliers and my vendors during that time to just see how they had to be flexible with not only their minimum order quantities, but just like what their team had to prioritize from a production standpoint, right? And more, um, I learned I learned what type of resilience would be necessary in business. And again, this is why I said I want to separate the business from my lived experience, right? Because when I'm home, when I'm with my family, um, we're just chilling, we're having a good time. And that is sort of the antithesis of business. So, a lot of the times when I talk to people about the brand, there's this question that arises about like just creating the business in an authentic way from my feminine natures. And what I have found is that the overall world is not quite there yet, right? There's still so much going on, and you look at the circumstances of now where there are competing priorities for so many decision makers, competing priorities for people with their discretionary income. And this is why I said, like, just having something like a resilient circle, something like a cohort of people, an alliance of people, a network of people who understand the ins and outs, because it's like it is a group effort to be successful. There isn't um, there isn't one person who can solely take credit for the success or failure of any initiative, any company, any product, any nation, any person, right? And I think it's oftentimes very easy to allow ourselves to believe that there's a such thing as self-made. Um, I have a lot on my shoulders just when I think about creator, right? Thinking about the products and the services. And then me as a human being. Pardon me. I'm a little tired. Um, just as a human being, what it takes to pour into my own cup, what it takes to nourish myself, to sustain myself, to allow myself to be poured into, allow myself to be nurtured, allow myself to feel safe. Um, there are a lot of decisions that I make in a day, and it feels nice to be able to say, oh, that's not mine. That's not for me to carry. I can delegate that. I can delegate that. I can delegate that just to make my life easier. So I I really look forward to this next chapter of the business because I've been imagining myself moving this stuff out of the house. Like I said, oftentimes because some of the people that I listen to who have gone forth and done similar things ahead of me, I look at I look to their opinions and guidance on what to do because some of the decisions that I find myself up against is, yeah, if I'm in a high cost of living area, how am I going to be able to pay equitable wages under a wellness company, under a body care company, right? When the federal minimum wage is $7.50, where the state that I currently reside in and have my business in is like, what, $15? That is the minimum tolerable wage that I could pay people. Yet, and still, some of my research has shown me that in order for most people to be able to afford a home, they would need to be making at least like $55 an hour, right? And so I think about some of those things when I think about the pay scales of the different roles that can go into a company that is product based. I think about some of that in addition to the healthcare and the perks. Like, what are the incentives that will make someone want to join a company that's just starting out and actually have some skin in the game so that they want to be a part of the upward mission, right? Knowing that it's probably going to be all hands on deck for like the first 3 to 5 years. And then again, if they have equity and a stake in the company, they have autonomy in their role, right? They're supported by leadership. It's a psychologically safe working environment. There's clear directions, there's clear systems and procedures, there's a clear understanding of the compliance needs. Um, and then, like I said, there are more than enough people to fulfill the roles that would make the company a success, right? I started looking at things like that and I feel so hopeful about possibilities, right? Because when you have over 100,000 people who have um, been let go from their jobs, I look at that as a positive in my perspective if I was to actually leverage my business ventures, right? And say, ooh, can I get my hands on some capital to actually do another round of funding to bring some more products and services to market based on customers, or even drive up interest, drive sales, because we can create jobs. We can create jobs for the state that I'm in. Um, Again, I've been able to listen to people who have successfully relocated their businesses from the United States to other countries, and I because of the tax benefits. And I've been able to listen to them and hear the process of that. I've been able to identify like legal teams that I could work with that could help me move the business out of the state that I'm currently in and even out of the country. And so there's so many things at stake. And so again, when I boil it back down to the fact that like I've had success in getting these products into the hands of customers, direct to consumer. And then when I look at, again, how the model is changing so much, where customers are demanding the retailers that they shop at to do more for them, to be more equitable, to be more community rooted. And it makes me, just as a business owner, much more aware of how many customers are starting to pay attention to the impact in the full life cycle of a product and even their buying power. That gives me hope. And it's unfortunate because I remember distinctly the days back when I was in fashion school and we would talk about getting deals with getting your clothing line into big department stores and big box retailers, and the terms, and why it was often recommended that you didn't, if you're just starting out, didn't go that big because it could bankrupt you. I look at, because of bill backs, chargebacks, at the end of the season, any that's pretty much at the end of the season, any goods that they didn't sell, they give they send them back to you, minus their expenses. And again, if you don't have the liquidity to absorb uh, those chargebacks, it could bankrupt you as a business. So I look at all those things. I look at the knowledge that I have, the wisdom that I have, and look at, again, just how a lot of people went on to become parents. They went on to become involved in their community, and seeing where the industry is pressing upon bigger companies advertising for their deceptive advertising and things of that nature. And I'm like, wow, I would have never in a million years have dreamed that some of the things that I learned about from my sustainability and fashion course, where it was not a sexy idea to even have or to research or to invest in back then. And I got my degree in 2009, just to give you time frame. I was interested in sustainability and fashion back in 2008, 2009. And here we are today, right? 2025. And we're seeing how a lot of these bigger fast fashion companies are being held accountable for their products and services and where they end up, how they are impacting the community. When it was kind of like a well known secret that most people didn't really discuss out loud and in the open about, hey, it's just another season, it's just another collection. Most consumers don't care because that was the reality of the market. Now it's kind of in vogue to have people care about where their products are being created, right? Like how it's sourced, where is it coming from? Did this person get a fair wage? All of those badges are really great. And I think about, again, obviously, I do still have dreams of bringing a fashion line to market, but it, to me, again, it has to be done smartly. Right now there are enough garments to clothe all of us tenfold without me bringing a line to market. And that's a very real consideration that I think about, right? Like I balance a lot of things, and I have people who let me know that, like, Nick, you could have been a bit further along if you didn't care so much. And that's very real criticism that I oftentimes have to sit with as well. Because I'm like, yeah, I know I could, but like why? Right? Like it really does impact my heart to understand how powerful it is to be a founder, a CEO, um, to know the ear and the ears and the trust that you have of people, and how you can choose to be better for the world and the community that you're a part of and your workers and all that other stuff. And I can't focus on anybody else, any other company, CEO or leadership, right? Like I've tried my best in every career that I've had where I was an employee. I've tried to always be respectful of the leadership, even if I didn't agree with them, right? Because it's their company. It's like they have been put in charge for a reason, whether I agree with their decision making or not. I've always held that as I've always held that in high regard. So like if I left a company on my own volition, it's because like there was a misalignment somewhere, right? Like, and it is what it is. And so again, when I look at the jobs data that came out a few days ago about November numbers and black women, of course, being disproportionately pushed out of jobs, I think about myself and countless others who, again, trying to do good for the environment, trying to do good for the world, but got caught up in the narratives of DEI, and this somehow black women didn't earn their place in these companies and these roles that they were in. Somehow the world doesn't need black women anymore. Somehow we are a problem everywhere we go. And it's absolutely gut wrenching. Um, I watch how some of the conversations I have in real life with real people who are nurses, just the sadness they have about like their commitment to their profession and how so much of their legacies are being washed away. And it breaks my heart because I just wonder like who would allow this? Like, and this is just from a legal perspective, like how is any of this legal? How is this not seen as discrimination? How is this not seen as treason? How is this intentional sabotage of our economy not tried in the highest courts of America And how can we, in good consciousness and good faith, going into the holiday season, the Christmas season, regardless of what your religion is, that's why I said the holiday season, right? Regardless of what your religion is, because there are Jewish people that are probably being let go, right? Because as we know, just because the black women are the face of those who are unemployed, like I said, I've been in rooms where there's been white women, white men, black women, black men, other Indian women, Indian men. All of us are unemployed, right? So, how, again, black women become the poster children for the intentional sabotage of wealth creation and upward mobility is beyond me. And to constantly be bullied into specific narratives that we somehow didn't earn these positions based on our merit and education, based on being the best qualified candidate. When I sit in rooms where, in interviews where I'm being asked why I haven't been hired yet, I really think about all of these career steps that I've had, all these inventions that I've participated in, all these profile award winning campaigns that my contributions went on to help uphold. And I'm like, again, what was it all for? Right? If your career can be pulled out from under you just like that, if your accomplishments and contributions to society and humanity can be erased with a eraser, right, in history, cool. So it's like, okay, well, did we just go through an ego death? And then what next, right? Because again, when you talk about hundreds of thousands of women who may or may not be the breadwinner of their family, who may or may not have children, who may or may not have a mortgage to pay, and you start talking about discretionary income, even if they're not my target audience for a $36 bottle of body lotion, right? Or a $36 bottle of body wash, or a $12 pack of tea, right? Herbal tea that you drink. Even if they're not my target audience, like I know black women in and out. And if we are at any little shop, like we're going to test stuff out. If it's something that we can consume, we're going to do it, right? Like if it's something that just makes us feel good, we're going to try it out. Like we support people, we support small brands, indie brands. We show up for people. And there's lots of data that show that when things work for black women, everyone tends to benefit from it. So that's why I said, like, when I think about the position that I could be in as someone who has the title of founder or LLC holder, and what I could do, and I think about the strategic partners that I need to align with to get on board so that we get funding, we get certain things going. I think about the social equity, the social empowerment aspect of what does it look like to actually band together and be good for the world in spite of all the degradation of social fibers in our communities, right? Because again, my vantage point is different because I live in the Washington, D.C. metro area, right? So this area has been known as Chocolate City, right? Yes, gentrification has encroached upon most of the spaces that were predominantly black, right? So we have a lot of transplants who are white. We have a lot of people being pushed out of affordable areas, right? We have lots of fear tactics being pressed upon communities to like get them to leave their homes, get them to leave the land, get them to give up the things that will help them actually build wealth and continue their upward mobility out of a social class of low income. And a lot of people know that they just have to make it to midterms. A lot of people know that there's going to be a huge need to repair what this administration has undone once they're gone. And again, I think about all the legacies that were washed away, right? So not even just me as like a mid-career professional. Um, I think about just all the people who made it possible so that I could get as high as associate director, right? Because they did the grunt work of pushing equity and inclusion forward, right? We all know that white women are the major recipient of affirmative action, right? We all know that, except for the people who have a vested interest in participating in narratives that make it seem like, again, black women are somehow incapable of getting to where they are without a leg up. And I realized that the rage that I have, it's sacred. It is because I have read about and learned about the systemic inequalities that people that look like me face. And in my career, I have experienced some of those same things. No matter how much I fight against the dominant narrative and the status quo, there's always someone around the corner to remind me of my place and that you're not supposed to be there. That's not everybody's story, right? Because again, there's some people who have been able to um, succeed, right? And so without gaslighting myself, I'm like, no, you have enough. You've done enough, right? Because again, I'm a lot of times I am looking for additional ways to earn income, make this work, do this, do that, to the point where I'm like, there are some people who literally have one job that pays them more than enough money for them to meet all their needs. Why is it that I'm having to jerry rig all these systems, all these tools, all these things to work, right? There has to be a better way. There has to be a different way. What does that look like to create something that actually works for me and for others, that I could also include others that look like me to participate in? And that's really where I am, right? Because again, an idea is an idea is an idea is an idea. You can argue about the fact that most people are just trying to put food on their table, have a roof over their head, and have health insurance. So, to me, at some point, I realized that, like, okay, so then those should be the standards that all tax-paying citizens have, right? That aren't tied to a job, right? Because if we're saying we can destabilize people's well-being by removing this job, but their health care is tied to the job, and then if they want to get a different type of health care, it's going to cost them about $700 a month out of pocket, but we know most people don't even have $500 saved up for an emergency. I just wonder, like, how are people really living like this, right? If there are more of us, and by us I mean more tax-paying citizens who are compliant with the law, who aren't using corporate tax attorneys to circumvent their responsibility or exploit the tax code, if most of us aren't getting government grants and funding of our business ideas, like, who's it actually going to, and who is it benefiting, right? Because again, like I said, when I saw the jobs report in November, I was a little concerned. And because again, most people who've been out of the labor market for a while, who rolled off of unemployment, etc., they aren't included in those numbers. So there's still a whole group of people that aren't being accounted for in those reports. And then fast forward to the other side of the economy, where My compadres on the Asian continent are talking about their fiat currency and how their economy is starting to tumble, let alone the fire in Hong Kong, right? You have people in Russia who are also raising the flag about their economy, their fiscal economy, their real economy. You have people in America starting to raise the flag about their real economy. And again, it goes back to my question about where's the liquidity, right? Where's the money? Where is it going? Who is it helping? If everyday citizens are sharing their real experiences of, hey, nope, didn't have this, didn't have this, they're seeing a record number of defaults. And this is even, again, some of the larger real estate giants who are either anticipating defaulting on loans and things of that nature. I'm like, there's something that's really going on in our economy. And when you start looking at the intersection of industries, again, I just wonder where the money is, right? If those jobs were eliminated and it's because of automation and not AI, okay, they automated it, and then what, right? Like, what is the expectation regarding productivity and contributions of citizens to America's economy? How are they expected to pour into their own pools of money, their communities' pools of money? How are they expected to pay taxes on a state level, let alone a federal level? Just, these are just some of the questions that I ask myself when, again, I'm looking at the stuff that's in my house and how most of these were enterprise ideas that were set to the side to focus on the more immediate needs of, like, taking care of family, including myself, to make sure that, like, we had what we need to survive the unsurvivable. And most of us made it through, which I'm grateful for. But then even with that, it's like, I joked to someone recently because, again, if most people who know me know that I've been a flexitarian as far as, like, my way of eating. I went through a period where I was a pescatarian, then a vegan, then back to eating meat, then not, and now I'm like, just I can cook for myself, or I can go to a restaurant for myself. I don't necessarily, like, share too much about that anymore because, again, when I started looking at the candles, I was like, most of this stuff has toxins in it. But right, we're not supposed to, like, talk about that because it's a product that we want to sell, right? And then you look at states like California that have their prop warnings on most goods and services now that tell you, oh, this may cause cancer, da da da. And so again, when I, as myself, as someone who is an entrepreneur, I'm like, yo, like, hold on, time out. There are legit people who know these things cause harm, and they still don't care, and they still sell it to us. They still put it in our communities. I'd be like, oh, this world is wild. Noted, right? So that's what I said. That's why I said, like, I had to figure out what my own trade-offs were, because I'm like, yeah, you have an 100% mortality rate if you are alive, but there really are no ethics in this world, like, for real, like, legit. If you have enough money, you can make things go away. You can make stories go away. You can make lawsuits go away. You can make whistleblowers go away. You can make problems go away. Except for unemployment, homelessness, affordable health care, affordable gas, affordable groceries. Can't make that go away, Like we can't remove that. So that's why I said like I'm really doing my due diligence on the people that I associate with moving forward. Um, because I'm not willing to sacrifice myself or my loved ones. And when I say my loved ones, I mean like my true family, Like I don't get it. And it's not for me to get, right? Like I realize like I don't need to speak on behalf of anybody but myself. And then again, when I bring my businesses back to production, public facing, etc., I'll speak on behalf of those companies, and then my lawyers will speak on behalf of me, and the PR person will speak on behalf of me, and all that other jazz. Um, but again, I realize that there are a lot of people who are okay with the way that the world is today because it doesn't impact them and their family. And they're getting it by any means necessary. So if we can all hide behind our belief system, our religions, our gods, our goddesses, um, if we don't have to explain ourselves to anyone, if we don't have to be accountable to anyone, because we have enough money, we can just pay the fine when it comes to us. If that's the world that we live in, what does that say about the future? Right? What does that say about everything that we're creating now with the hopes of a better world tomorrow, if tomorrow shows up, right? Because at any point in time, someone can start a nuclear war, a cyber war. They can target the banking system. They can target, so many different things because we're such a global economy. Um, we are, we have open pores and open borders digitally, virtually, right? So this message that I'm filming, right? Once I upload it to the internet, it will go as far as wide as the algorithm takes it, which means that someone in Croatia could see this, someone in Uganda can see this, someone who is over in Rhode Island could see this, right? And they have never met me before in their life, but it can go across their feed because something that I've said in the wording aligns with something that they've either researched or are interested in, right? That's a lot of power. So, again, when you talk about the Internet of Things, the global economy, when you talk about products, when you talk about services, when you talk about a target audience, when you talk about a paying customer, a tax paying citizen, when you talk about strategic partners, you think about all these things that go into the infrastructure of a company that may use a marketplace like Amazon to ship their final goods so that it is delivered in 2 days or same day. That's where our world is. Like everything has sped up exponentially. And the same swiftness that came in and took out all those jobs due to automation, due to a reallocation of resources on something like AI, or even, not having record sales because of a boycott during Black Friday through Cyber Monday weekend. There are winners and there are losers in every industry. And when again you think about the brands that we've grown to love, the brands that have gone under, right? So like the Radio Shacks that were once upon a time a company that we could go and get our electronics from, right? You think about Blockbuster. Friday nights, you go get your box candy, you go get a movie or two as a rental, you go home with your friends and your family, you watch a movie, you may order Domino's pizza, eat the pizza, have your candy, have a movie night at home, right? All is well. they're gone and they were replaced with something new. Um, there are life cycles to everything. And so, again, when I look at the relics, as I call them, of initiatives, projects, and hobbies that I've accumulated over the span of my creative imagining, I'm finally at a place where I'm like, I'm ready to let go a lot of this stuff because, again, the Nicole at home is completely different than the Nicole in business. And I am ready to have separation between the two, right? I appreciate everything that I've been able to create, right? I say I've felt upwards because enough people believed in me to get my products in the hands of actual paying customers and like repeated customers, you know? And to me that says a lot. And so again, when I started thinking about scaling, when my creative director and I were talking about just the packaging and the vessels that we were using, like we knew that I would need to shift. And I didn't mind it, right? Because again, now, ironically, after I've been talking more about like the plastic industries, I now get ads that show me how the plastic industry is doing a better job of manufacturing recyclable plastics. And I'm like, oh, is that right, algorithm? Look at you doing what you were designed to do. So, my best recommendation is like some other content creators who may have unpopular opinions, but who know themselves in and out would say, and that's like really just focus on your own money. Focus on your money, focus on what you can do, focus on your niche, focus on your lane, because you could drive yourself crazy with if you're paying attention to everything that's going on in the world, right? Nobody's getting out of here alive. And from what I can see, no one's got it all right. Even the most sanctified people that you may want to put on a pedestal, which I do not recommend putting anyone on a pedestal at all, no one's getting out of here alive. And so for me, like I'm trying my best to relax a little bit. And again, getting the business out of the home so that I can go back to enjoying the home as it was intended to be enjoyed, because I appreciate how my home has been an incubator of ideas for myself and so many others. And again, as it stands now, it's like if this is truly a free market, then let it be a free market. Don't try to have some auxiliary non-governmental entity breach our privacy and try to figure out how much money we make and what we're doing and spy on us, etc., so you can get an edge ahead of our technology and our innovation or whatever. Because again, no, this is a free market. This is a free market that we live in. You can't be mad if people of color, especially black people, black or African American people, right? Don't be mad if African American people put the work in to actually create something that actually works. Don't try to sabotage them because that's not cool. And I think that's what I appreciate most about, again, a platform like YouTube, a platform like social media, where it's like you're seeing more and more people who are willing and capable of expressing themselves and showing how they live, showing how they show up in their communities, showing what they've done, so that you see like this isn't just some, oh, they're ignorant, they're just using their races, that's how they have. No, some of the most educated people I have met have been in this DC, Maryland, and Virginia area. They just so happen to be black, African American, right? I'm sorry, I should do black, right? African American, or coloreds, even. And I am learning to toe the line around the fact that there are 5 to 6 generations in the workforce, right? Generations meaning people, age cohorts in the workforce. And so, how I speak and the boldness that I have in holding white supremacy to task for the harm that they consistently do on a daily basis, that may not be everybody's cup of tea, right? Like I said, I've had older mentors who have tried to teach me how to be a little bit more diplomatic, how to, play nicely. And I'm like, hey, but we're literally under warfare right now. Economic warfare. I don't know if placating the egos of white fragility are really going to get us anywhere right now. Like, because as it stands, I have yet to see there be anyone saving Black people. My bad, African American people, right? Because even with that, there are certain generations that understand the term for one thing, and then there are other generations that are more comfortable using a different term. Ultimately, talking about people who have melanated pigment, that were descendants of chattel slavery, um, African American, colored, Black people. So I am, like I said, I'm hopeful for 2026. I know it has been a rough year for so many people, myself included, right? I've told my family repeatedly, I feel like I'm living in a twilight zone and I'm doing my best to stay sane, because when I told them that shit was about to get bad, no one could have imagined that it would be like what we're living through right now. And a lot of people are still in shock, right? A lot of people are experiencing cognitive dissonance, uh, the fawn expression of trauma. Most people can't believe what their eyes are showing them, what their lived experience is showing them. And it's the reality of an administration that are happy to be tools of white supremacy, that literally live by it and they will die by it and they don't care. And as I mentioned, it's not hyperbole. It is what it is. There are some people who are choosing to flee, go to safer places to raise their children, and there's some people who don't have the option, who are here, so they're going to fight, whatever that means and looks like. For some people, there will be creative expression and new forms of artistry that comes out of this time, right? Like, this is a renaissance in a lot of ways, and I think there is room for everyone. Like I said, what we have now should be a free market where the best and the brightest ideas are what actually come to be. But we've seen it with places like Tulsa, where Black Wall Street was destroyed by angry, jealous white people. We know that history has documented, just as much as there have been white people terrorizing Black people, there have also been pockets of resistance, right? Pockets of revolt where the people actually fought back. And so now I'm saying, like, we're fighting back intellectually and creatively. And that is a powerful place for us to be. And so the more people that can actually get together offline without having to use these tools of surveillance, the better. And again, as I mentioned, this world has a 100% mortality rate. We have a 100% mortality rate. What is there to be afraid of, right? No one's promised a long life. We have seen consistently that children who go to school are not safe. People who go to church are not safe. People who go to the grocery store are not safe. People die in car accidents every day, right? How are you living? When I say how are you living, I mean, are you making the most of your time? Can you fail upward? even if you don't scale to a large imprint like well, actually, as I see with the boycott, people are trying to stay as far away from the big box retailers as possible, right? So if there is a local mom and pop shop that you could actually get your goods and services in, would you? Could you? What does that look like? I've been encouraged to do the same, right? Get boots on the ground and go into stores and talk to people about their marketing. And I'm like, I try not to be jaded by my own experience of doing that when I first started in my marketing career. That allowed me to get to the place where I was a strong enough communications and marketing professional to get gigs in agency and large clients, because I know what that grit was like, right? I know what it was like to have to talk to mainstream companies and Main Street companies, and the Main Street companies that didn't have the knowledge, the time, or the budget to implement it, but they saw how it could be valuable, right? There's a lot of grassroots things that can take place. So again, I've never liked doing things on my own. Um, I can and have been successful at it as an independent contractor, an independent contributor, and again, just see the value in creating something that can actually be a legacy. Um, because it's a lot of people that aren't working. So it's like, you ain't got time. You ain't got nothing but time. You may not have money, but you got time, right? You could create something. You could do something, right? We all need money. And so, but again, when you start talking about solidarity and all those things, it's like, I don't, I don't get tied into a lot of that stuff anymore because I know it's not real. There, to me, like I said, there's no such thing as like this global solidarity, right? Even with, let's take the boycott of Black Friday through Cyber Monday. How many people still went shopping? How many people still ordered their Amazon orders, their Walmart orders? So again, it's like, yeah, we saw with Target that more people were getting tired. So I think that we will see greater numbers of people who participate. But again, there's no such thing as 100% buy-in. The difference is like, can you find enough of your people to actually make waves? Can you find enough of your people to create goods and services, put it in the market, let the market decide and dictate what's good, what's real, and what needs to continue being created? I personally think that a lot of these regional banks, these antiquated funding models and how they give out loans and distributions, I think all of that is outdated, right? Especially when you consider how a lot of these banking families and cartels were started. It's like this whole double blind project of, hey, this is how we tell you that we want to be upright and just, but this is really how we got our start. I'm not the one for the games. And yet somehow I have to find a way to exist in this world where I know those two things exist and make a living for myself, make a name for myself where I'm proud. Why? Because again, you're on these social sites anyway, right? Someone from a brand has already made recognition of you. Someone has already mentioned your name in the room. So it's like, whether you want to be a brand or not, you are a brand. And so you have to learn how to leverage whatever it is you got going on to make the most bang for your buck. Like I said, I look around my house and I'm proud of myself because I used to be a very meek, mild mannered young lady who, of course, I went to work, I did my job, and then I came home and I started spending more time journaling, writing, exploring my interests, my fancies, if you will, painting just because I wanted to paint, drawing just because I wanted to draw. But again, writing because I wanted to write, exercising because I wanted to exercise. Even though it was like helping me, healing me, making me more comfortable with myself, I was doing it because I loved it. I was starting to appreciate it and respect the consistent results that I was seeing with pouring into myself and my body and my interests in a way that was meaningful. And again, it just so happened that my career steps allowed me to give back. So that whole idea of volunteering and stuff like that, I'm like, I've worked way below my actual wage for most of my career. I'm not volunteering my time anymore. Why? Because again, from what I see, there's a lot of money and liquidity in the markets all around the world to solve the ills of the world, and I'm not throwing my time into that mix when people with more money, more time, more access, more privilege could be doing it, right? And that's also why I said I feel like it's important to have different voices of reason on the internet, right? Like, I don't think Black women need to be volunteering their time in more unpaid labor into a world that already takes so much from them without batting an eye. And that's just my perspective. I don't think there's anything noble um, about exploitation, and I'll stand on that 100%, which is why, again, I'm in this very interesting intersection of like, how business is supposed to work. Sure, there's this idea that it could be better and you can do it through the divine feminine framework or what have you, but it's like, but then there's also reality of where most people are, right? What can the market bear? What's your market share of this in wellness? What's your market share of this in marketing? What's your market share of this in retail? What's your market share of this in technology? All those intersections. Um, so anyway, I think if I was to provide any person who has the capacity to do something for themselves, to invest in themselves that doesn't require a large imprint or a large load, right? I would recommend a library card. And I say that because they have, depending on what area you're in, they have social events and programming, they have newspapers, they have magazines, they have most of the books that you will be interested in reading, that you can learn from, that you can jot notes down about, and that you can integrate other people's learnings into your own way of living to extend and expand your awareness of what is possible for yourself. There's nothing that I love more than seeing like a book that someone recommends, me thinking I'm going to buy it from a store. And I keep this in mind that I don't just shop at Amazon. I shop at indie bookstores as well, and local bookstores. But I'll look and see if it's available at the library, and I'll just wait to read it from there rather than buy it, right? Because that $12, $16 that I was going to spend on a book can go to groceries. It can put gas in the car. For some people, I don't know who, but it sounds like a good lie, so I'm gonna say it. For some people, $16 may pay a bill. I think the only $16 bill that I have currently is like my YouTube premium bill. So when you talk about inflation, when you talk about tariffs and how income tax may be done away with based on the tariff, and I'm like, I'll believe it when I see it, right? Because the way all these bills have gone up, but the wages have not, I'm not boo boo the fool, and you can't keep trying to put people like me in manufacturing and high demand, high service facing roles while paying us pennies and expect that we're just going to keep existing like that. Like, it makes no sense. So I am of the sentiment, along with countless other people that if you can be an entrepreneur, do it and create better opportunities for the hundreds of thousands of workers that actually don't mind showing up to work, that want to be able to work and provide for themselves and their families. Like, make good companies, right? Where there's not high turnover rates, where there's not high attrition or unsafe environments, where there's actual upward and forward movement, where you hire from within, right? Like, actually create something good, because we need more, y'all, right? There are so many companies that are too big to fail, and not because the consumers did anything, right? But because they have formed the right alliances with the right nations and the right governments. Consumers can only do so much. So if consumers are cut at the knees, it's because they've already got the government to business and the business to business down packed. It's just what it is. And then some of those things will be mandated into how we're expected to contribute to this society, right? And again, a lot of this stuff could be eradicated, but it's not. So that tells you how important money is. So I will never be one of those people who tell you money's not important. Money is so important. So important. Why? Because you need it from the time you wake up to the time you go to sleep. Right? Try going to the grocery store, getting a cart full of food and going to checkout and being like, I love you. And see if you get to leave that store with that cart full of groceries. Try going to the gas station and doing the same thing. Actually do it and report back to me and let me know if it works. Have you ever tried to pick up your child late from daycare and try to get them to waive the late fee because you had a meeting that ran over, or traffic, or what have you? Let me know how that works out for you. So again, when I listen to so many people try to diminish the importance of money in this society, especially where women are concerned, I don't like how women's emotional, nurturing, given nature is exploited for the benefit of others. But women now find themselves disproportionately impacted, and all of their social safety nets are being ripped out from under them. And I'm literally looking around like, who's showing up for women, especially Black women? Who shows up for Black women, right? I posted on here a while ago and I said, are there Black diaspora companies that can hire Black diaspora people in mass, right? Because we were starting to see the first waves of numbers of Black women who were unemployed. I haven't received a call from any Black diaspora company asking me to work with them, collaborate with them. And I know my resume is really great. I know my skills are great. Most people that I know, if they are working, they are already preparing for an upcoming furlough in January, right? Because the government is functionally back in order, but they still have to do more budget negotiations. Private industry has been gobsmacked, left, right, and center. So again, when I see all this, I realize how long the beautiful words of so many community leaders have fallen on the hearts of well-meaning people who wanted to do right by their community, wanted to do right by their state, wanted to do right by their family, etc. And the reality that we're met with now, the amount of betrayal that one experiences with feeding into these systems repeatedly, only to find oneself left out in the cold and the dark, figuring things out when it didn't have to be this way. And I'm somehow asked, well, why have you been out of work so long? I'm like, I don't even care anymore. And again, I'm figuring out a lot of things where I'm like, you know what? Yeah, if my mentor, who's a white man by the way, if my mentor is in agreement that this company could be scaled up, then yeah, let me get this company out of my house. Let me get it into its own space so that again, it can do what it needs to do and I can get back to enjoying my house, my life. Because there's no way that when I wake up before my taxes are due and filling out my tax returns, doing right by the state that I live in, paying the federal government their share, I'm starting to feel like Boo Boo the Fool. So again, I see and I understand why people feel the way they do about a lot of things because it took me coming out of the mindset of a wage worker and acquiring new skills as an LLC owner, as someone who was looking at the continuous business development and revenue generating activities and the importance of cash flow and looking at the systems and how the systems integrate with other systems that may or may not be as advanced as this new tech startup app that I'm trying out because such and such said it was a good idea, but it doesn't integrate with this, and this logistics system doesn't integrate with this, and it doesn't integrate with this inventory system or this QA. And I'm like, it's a lot. And there's so much potential, so much greatness, so much goodness. And I know my perspective is my own, and a lot of it is because I've had the privilege of working in a lot of innovation spaces in my career. So the stuff that I do and have access to, it is what it is. But it's like I gotta get moving. So I'm gonna end the video here because I'm at 107. And I think I've said enough. And again, this is hoping that the audio is working. This is hoping that, again, I get up, toss what needs to be tossed, pack and relocate what needs to be relocated so I can get back out to traveling, so that I can get to hiring the team, partnering with the people I need to partner with, and get things back going. Because, again, sometimes you have to look at history to ground yourself in the present. And history has shown me that women and girls have always been under siege when it comes to war. And when I look at things like healthcare and I look at some of the learnings that I found about how certain medicines and stuff are tested on male patients, and there's not a lot of data on how it actually affects the female body. And I'm like, oh, look, there's something right there that the healthcare industry could do better on. Doesn't require AI, right? There's a whole underserved population of women in medicine, and that's something that benefits the world. So it's like, again, I don't even need to be under an NDA or a non-compete to say that, right? Like, there's so much that can be done in this world, and yet here we are. So again, when I took a step back as a woman to say, I noticed a series of events of how I've been treated when I go to get treatments and certain things like that. Oh, was I treated with dignity and respect? Was I treated kindly? Like, I had to learn a lot in order to be an advocate for myself where my own health is concerned, right? There's a lot of ways in which women, especially Black women, are underserved. And it's not rocket science. It's getting the funding in the right hands of the right people. So the overall umbrella company, Earth and Bros Wellness Group, products and services, right? The body care company is just one aspect of it, but it takes real botanicals, real herbs, real essence, and again, implements it, whether it's internal or external, to helping to mitigate certain conditions that come up throughout the human lived experience, right? Based on ancient medicine, ancient documented medicine, right? It's a great time to be alive. And again, I'm grateful that I got over my aversion of public speaking so that I can talk more about my why and some of the things that I've been working on. Because again, some of the cutesy stuff, like I said, the reed diffusers, right? Just make you feel good. But the body products, the body lotion, the body wash has actual goat milk in it, which helps repair the skin. So, again, grateful that I was able to utilize certain tools at my disposal, get the products out there, get it out to actual consumers, see how it was helping them in their conditions like eczema, dry skin. And again, being wise enough to not scale past my own capacity after getting to a proof of concept. Because again, there's so many different things that and levers that can be fine-tuned. There's so much other research and development that I want to do. There's so many different organizations and groups that I want to work with, including like Black women in clinical studies, because there are certain things, again, that I've been able to glean access to by working with my own healthcare practitioners, and then just overall of seeing some of the things that as women we age and mature that we go through, where it's like underserved market. There's so much, but we need safe spaces, we need funding, we need people that actually care to show up for us, right? And again, just off the strength of transparency, some of the conversations I have with the women in my own life are like, there were no books on menopause or perimenopause or how the female body works when they were growing up. But now we have more information because women were brave enough to talk about their lived experience. And there's so much that we need. And it's like, again, so to even have men be able to dictate what is healthcare, what words we can use, what is an accredited degree, and whatnot. It reminds me of why I was willing to go as hard as I did in my career at a certain women-led organization, knowing that I would probably be ostracized for working there. But I did certain things because that's how important it is for us women to be able to have autonomy in our body, especially in our health care, right? Like I said, it's a very jarring feeling to be told in so many words your body is not your own, and unless you're having our children, we don't care about what you think your body should be able to do, and we tolerate it. As I said, there are not enough people who are angry. There are not enough people who have the money who are actually doing good with their money. And I'm literally watching this all from my beautiful home in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, where I can hop on a train and go and see what's going on and not think any of this stuff is a joke, right? Because again, the data on women's health has not kept up with the times. We don't have to go to Mars to figure out a new way to live. And yet, government funding, state funding, private equity, where's it going? So that's why I said, like, if we could get more women entrepreneurs, we could get more women millionaires, more women billionaires to like actually step up to the plate and help us, because again, who's taking care of us? Who's taking care of our health? Who's taking care of our wellness? You know, I have been researching for the longest what type of herbs and seeds help to repigment hair, right? That's just one thing, right? It's just something that's topical, vain, right? But again, just to reverse some of the premature aging that came with being in a fight or flight response by being unsafe in work environments, right? In toxic DMV environments of like, is ICE coming or are they not? Right? Like all those real, like, fearful circumstances of like, am I in imminent danger? Like that has effects on your body, right? Living under white supremacy is doing us all in, right? I talk to my family about the life expectancy rate of black men. Black men will be lucky if they get past 78 years old. And that's on a state level, right? We know women live longer than men. I haven't seen the data on black women's life expectancy rate, but for black men, it's about 76, 71 to 76, if I'm not mistaken. So we're not even living to 100. Like I said, that's not even dealing with technology. We have to look at the environmental factors that are prematurely aging, stressing us out, and causing us to die. It's not the food. It's not because everybody's just eating bacon, right? All these unhealthy narratives that are given in our communities to shame people for eating what they have access to. I might be an idealist, but at least it's something, right? At least I can imagine a better, a brighter tomorrow, right? It means I'm not dead inside. So, anyway, this is just a random rant. And now I get to go purge and consolidate and get things ready for my new chapter. I'm going to hold myself to it to do my energy of the read tomorrow. I think it should be good because, like I said, even though I'm a little tired right now, I think tomorrow will be good. So, take care. And if you are seeing this, I'm sitting next to my pink Himalayan salt lamp. That's why the lighting looks the way that it does. But yeah, on my new Pixel. See you later.